Good afternoon, everyone. This is Robert T. Green, the CEO of Pre-Post Game, also known as the Players Rep, here to educate, empower, and protect the athletes and their families' best interests alone. Today is Wednesday, June the 24th, so I appreciate you guys taking the time out. And this is very important live right now. And I want you to understand, like I said, the real reason why the industry wasn't want the student athlete to get paid is a lot bigger than you guys may think on the forefront. Um, and so let me just give you the backdrop. We just recently celebrated Juneteenth, pertaining to freed slaves in 1863, but didn't realize what it was till approximately June 19th, 1865. But when you had that time of slaves being released, you also had shortly after that the prison system that was then put in place. That a lot of these freed slaves who didn't have education, who didn't have quality of life, don't have any way to go about doing things except trying to find food and do certain things. Now all of a sudden laws are put in place where when you stole something, you were put in this prison, and you now were working again in a prison system that forced you to work for cheap labor. They basically had you in there, and now you basically building all types of things inside that prison. Even though you were free, now you were re-incarcerated now in the prison system. So you're no longer a slave, but in prison in your mind, and now in prison in your body. So you fast forward to approximately 1905, 1906, when you had now segregation ended. And when segregation ended, between African Americans and whites going to the same schools, here comes the beloved NCAA. And pertaining to the NCAA, from 1906 to now, again, you talk about being enslaved or in prison, mind and physically, what we have in this sense where everybody that's a part of their actual structure do not want the athletes to get paid, because at the end of the day, if you now educate and pay those actual athletes, they now become free, not only physically, but mentally. The things that happen to them emotionally by these coaches in these schools not fulfilling their actual promises in those living rooms that ask you to trust the process now go out the window. The agencies that basically sit back and wait for 3 to 4 or 5 years of your life to turn around when you get to the point where you want to become a millionaire to say, I have this money now to help you pay for your training. Now that actual conversation completely changes. That agent is no longer valuable to that player based off the money the player already received through his name, image, and likeness, or being compensated for the actual work that he did or she did on the sports court, field, and so forth prior to. So now, what is your actual value that you can provide to me as an athlete? It's really slim, because the fact is, like you said, when it comes to the pro sports, they are making decisions based off one, your health, based off how you proceed to produce or can produce, projected to produce for them at the next level. And now, at the end of the day, the same contract that in most major sports, football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, the first one is already slotted, meaning it's already written based off of where you at. So there's certain languages in there that literally can be explained to you, taught to you by a lawyer who understands that for an hourly rate. Whereas you have your unions basically helping you to decide to basically pay someone for 3 to 4 years in a contract that's not even guaranteed a lot of times your own issue, your own situation. Trust the facts, not the process. Again, if this history lesson is something that you don't get, it's going to be also part of your present and your actual future. Now, again, I'm a businessman, been one for a long time. I'm a former high school athlete, collegiate athlete, and pro athlete. Anybody watching this film right now or watching this video right now that's at work, going to work tomorrow, if your employer told you guys that over the next 2 weeks, that say 6 months, that you're going to work for them for free, and then after you finish your work, then you will basically find out what you're going to be compensated for it. No one watching this video will actually do that. But every single athlete, whether it's in college, in pros, in high school, that are told to trust the process, but we'll stick to the pro part right now. So now I meet this agent. He says, I'm family. We're family. So now my family, the guy that works for me, is telling me that over the next 6 months, this is what that he's going to charge me. And then, not knowing I'm a first round or a seventh round, he's going to say it's a percentage. He's going to tell me a lower percentage for a higher round. So, for example, 1% in the first round, 2% in the second round, 3% in the third round or lower. Two things. First of all, does the athlete and parent understand that 1% in the first round in pro sports is a lot more than 3% in the third round in going lower? That's the first thing. Second thing, if you work for me, why is that I fall lower in making less money that I'm paying you more? Invest in yourself, not the industry. So the fact is that if you come to tell me that one, you're going to pay for me to go train, and now you're going to tell me that I don't know what I'm going to get, where I'm going to be drafted at when I'm getting paid, but now you know what you're going to get paid regardless of the fact. This is why that the people, sports traffickers in this industry, do not want the athletes to be paid, because between high school, college, and pros, every service provider is connected to someone based off who he knows and who he dealt with in the first place. You can look no further than some of these college coaches and some of their actual agents that they have. It is a conflict of interest for those coaches, and it's not supposed to happen that they actually direct you to the actual agent that represents the coach. But again, the player doesn't understand their own business, and that's what they do. But no one's reporting those actual things, because who's going to report that? When I talk about situations that's going on in the country right now, and we're talking about equality and racism, we tend to hear the numbers of the coronavirus going through the roof, and particularly in the southern states, while we have African American athletes who this disease will affect a majority more than other people going out or being asked to go out and volunteer in a pandemic to make sure coach such and such and university such and such gets paid. But yet, where are the people that have networks that without these athletes would cease to exist, covering these things and these biases that are not equal? Where are the people out there, these networks and these resources and all these commentators and analysts that literally do not want to cover racism in college athletics and sports that have been here since the beginning of time? They talk about and they cover and they glorify the National Signing Day, what I like to call as an actual national child labor announcement or event, basically built off the backs of minorities. That's the celebration. Give each one of these uneducated, uninformed African American athletes a hat and a T-shirt. Celebrate the fact they're not making a decision to go put their body at risk for no pay in order to build up the institution that without them would cease to exist. Trust the facts, not the process. So when you find that people are not standing up or speaking out on your voice or your actual plight, you understand why that is. It is not the NCAA's wishes to see players at UCLA talking about, we don't trust your actual program to take care of us from our health and our medical concern. Why is that? Because they know that several universities and coaches and their medical staff have misdiagnosed athletes' injuries for decades. But who are they supposed to call when that happens? But not only they misdiagnosed their actual medical situation, they have prevented or have not worked to actually get these actual athletes who are high profile, who drive revenue to the schools, to get proper and adequate insurance coverage that most parents are not even aware, or athletes not aware, that can be afforded to them through the student athletic fund. Trust the facts, not the process. Since there's no one in this industry that, besides making money off the athlete, is willing to advocate for the athlete's best interest, this is what you have right now when the whole world is fighting for equality. The powers that be in the NCAA and lower are fighting to keep things just the way they are. They talking change, but they focusing on T-shirts and flags in Mississippi. They're not focusing on the racism that's going on in Clemson and Iowa and Mississippi right now. But they want to focus on symbolism to basically get you to get quiet about what's what. And for some of those fans that I want to address right now, that at the end of the day, they're saying all these things about these student athletes that drive revenue, that again, for people to understand, I say it again, I say it on all my posts, without the athlete, there's at least 15 different professions that will cease to exist. Those of you that's using Sirius NFL or satellite radio right now, listen to a sports station, those 5 or 6 stations, Mad Dog, Sirius XM, and all these different guys, they talking about athletes and players. Now ask yourself, why are they talking about them? Are they getting paid? Those athletes, that is, they have their name spoken about, but yet you want them to concern themselves about what it is you feel and what you think. If they're working with me, I can assure you, nothing that I'm going to advise them about is to worry about what you say and what you think. Racism in society today, even in the sports level, talking about things like the term bust. This athlete's a bust. This African American, Caucasian American 21, 22-year-old athlete, male or female, has now secured hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for their future and their family. Now someone who doesn't feel like that person is not playing up to the caliber that they would like, they want to label them a bust. They want to go to their social media platforms and say, this person has done something that in their own right is less than 1% in the entire world ever done it, that they're a bust. No, that's what we call closet racists. That's what we call people that are mad at the fact that you or they, as the athlete, can do things that you can never do. So the best thing you can contribute to it is talking bad about them and hope that they basically feel bad about what you say. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say. So that's my point to those people that keep bashing these kids. There's, like I said, a minimum 15 different professions: coaching profession, ESPN network, NFL network, NBA TV. It goes on and on and on. Marketing platforms, every shoe company, apparel company. No one is wearing sneakers and shoes because of the coach wore them. It's because of the athletes. You know, the ones that want to be like Mike. So when the worldwide leader spends during a pandemic 10 months diagnosing what Michael Jordan did 15 years ago, did they talk about the fact that Michael Jordan didn't make the money he could have made based off the Jordan shoe with Nike because he got pennies to the dollar based on what he didn't know and understand. But yet you want to talk about how great North Carolina was and Coach Dean Smith was to Michael Jordan. You love to tell these athletes without these actual coaches and programs that they will be relegated back to the hood and they won't be able to be anything. Where would you be relegated to if these athletes didn't sacrifice their bodies and minds? If these parents that commit to your lives that you say, where would you be right now? Whether you're walking off a certain job because you can't do certain things that you like, whether it's the fact that you don't want to answer the question that when talking about what you did to these actual athletes is not in their best interest, you want to be dismissive of them and their families, what would you be doing right now? Because without them, there is no you. So again, understand athletes, future athletes, current athletes, parents. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. Not only sports, but just life itself. If someone walks through your door today and tells you to trust the process, do yourself a favor. Kindly escort them and show them to the nearest exit. Because the person that tell you to trust the process is the one that's setting you up to be pimped out. Sports trafficking and human trafficking and sex trafficking are similar to a certain extent. Look what's going on with Betsy DeVos. The reason why that the collegiate coaches and the Department of Education said that coaches are not required to tell if this person got raped or whatever may be from there, it's because at the end of the day, they're covering up for themselves. What happened in Penn State with Joe Pa isn't by accident. It isn't a fantasy. What happened with Dr. Larry Nass at Michigan State and these women in the USA Olympic team is not by accident. What happened in Ohio State with these wrestlers and the Congressman Jim Jordan is not by accident. It's because the athletes never had a responsible resource to advocate for them and protect them in their best interest. They were uneducated. They were uninformed. And a system that says they're there to educate you. But that's not on the athlete parents because they just want to live their dream. It's on you. You have to understand that you're the parent. Understand when you sign that NLI, the school goes out their way to separate you from your child. And your child will be separated from you based on what you do not know in the business of sport that they seek to be in. Take it for what it's worth. I didn't get to this point in this career and do something that's never been done before. I've had the honor and privilege to work with someone and some people and literally do things that's never been done in sports history. But I also am not worried about ESPN validating me for who I am. I've done more for athletes than some of the people that's on their show will ever do outside of speaking about the athlete. I help generate, create, help mold, and set up the athlete to be who they can talk about. And their greatest contribution is talking about things they don't know or understand, that they're not qualified to speak of. I said yesterday about Stephen A. Smith speaking about athletes not being able to make decisions on whether they should get paid or not or play or not. Like I said, buffoonery like that provides gold nuggets like that is why he gets paid so much. But he has nothing to do with me or people like me. This is because he looked like me. Just the facts, not the process. Knowledge is power. Simple as that. The more you know, the more you can do. When people talk about things like nepotism or blackmail and blackball, I don't subscribe to that stuff. Because at the end of the day, I didn't ask anybody to get me anywhere in the first place. So when the whole world talking about, black coaches in schools and black coaches in the pros, it's one thing you want to be a black coach in the pros. And the bottom line is you got to understand the business of being as a coach in the pros. It's not just X's and O's and game planning. The reality, if you give somebody a job, they're not qualified to have the job, they're going to lose the job. And that's the point. Education, true education, not manipulated, dictated, coerced education, factual information. What I try to give you every single time I speak. What I'm committed to, my company's committed to, when we speak to athletes and families, we have a checks and balance system. Educate, empower, protect. If we're not doing one of those three things, we're not talking. Because there's no need for us to talk. Everybody else is doing all the lying and all the different things that makes us relevant in this space. Thank you for that. Pre-post game is a direct byproduct of what the NCAA and what the powers that be in these networks have never done and never sought to do. We talk about in business, it's better to be the one than one of any day of the week. I've been asked 15 times to be people agent. I said, no, I'm not going to devalue myself to you becoming an agent based on what we can provide, based on the level that we provided. So again, if this video educated, empowered, and protect you anyway, if you have a student athlete, a parent, no matter they're young, old, getting started, or almost finished, we have things that we can help you with. But the knowledge is something that you got to get and you got to take it in. You got to really understand what's going on. My name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Post Game, also known to Players Rep, here to educate and empower, protect the athletes and their families' best interests alone. More information, you can see us on our website, freepostgame.com. Hashtag on Google, The Players Rep, all one word. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. God bless and have a good day.